what I want to talk you through today is what I've seen really happening, not just for this year, but over the last year as well. And these are elements that you need to be thinking about when it comes to personalizing your strategy to make sure that it really connects with your audience. So today, what you're going to be learning is, as we've said already, about continuing to put that real importance on data in a really meaningful way in your campaigns, making sure that you send those emails out with the customers at the heart of your strategy, thinking about their life cycle. So my name is Kate Barrett. I'm the founder of eFocus Marketing. And over the last 13 years, I've been lucky enough to work with a whole range of different brands. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of email marketing. And that's really what I want to share with you today, is the good side and how you can use it to your best advantage. So at the beginning of last year, I also published a book called Intelligence, Email Marketing Isn't Dead, the way you're using it is. And that really is what this whole webinar and everything that we do with our clients over here at eFocus Marketing is all about, using email intelligently to connect with your subscribers. So let me look into my crystal ball. Nope, I'm not Mystic Meg, so I'm not going to predict what's going to happen this year. But I do want to give you those trends, as we've said. So the first trend, as I think you just saw on your screen, is really the post-GDPR landscape in Europe is better. What we are able to do now has kind of settled down. So it's all about understanding what GDPR has really allowed us to do, and it's allowed us to build that trust. So marketers believe that consumer trust has improved in the way that brands handle their data, how they use their marketing, and business in general. So GDPR has really been a really good thing to build that trust, and trust is one of the main elements that encourages people to open and interact with our email. Okay, so if you just go on to the next slide. So can everyone hear me okay and see the screen? So you should be seeing a slide with return on investment on it. Okay, so we're getting a few yeses. Brilliant. So what we are seeing here with this trend is that where the trust is building, we're also seeing an impact on the return on investment that we're seeing from email marketing. So it's no surprise that in 2018, we saw a 10% increase in return on investment from the 2017 figure. So this is from the UK Direct Marketing Association email tracker report. Now, the thing with this report is it showed two elements in terms of that jump. It showed that, firstly, people are able to better calculate the return on investment from our campaigns, which is something that we all need to be thinking about, how we better calculate what we can and can't do with our email marketing. So that's definitely something to have one eye on as we're going through this year in your calculations. But also that the year in which GDPR came into play was the year in which we saw this amount increase. So as a lot of companies cut down their data and really started to think about how they were interacting with their audience, the data that they were collecting, what they were doing with it, we saw that return on investment number massively increase. So, you know, GDPR, the impact of GDPR has been fantastic. We've cut down those lists back to people who really want to receive emails from you. Now, that's been a good and a bad thing, that there have been people cut off of lists that perhaps shouldn't have been, but we are where we are now. But in most cases, it has made those lists a lot more responsive. It's meant that only the people who are really wanting to receive your emails are getting them, and that list collection is better going forward. So we're setting expectations of our program better. We're getting that positive opt-in, and we're really thinking about what we're doing more. So if you're listening and you're not within Europe and not covered under GDPR, the learnings for you here really are that what GDPR has brought into play for us in Europe has in effect been a good thing. It was a pain to begin with, but it has settled down and has worked out for many companies really, really well. So think about what you're doing with data. Think about the data that you're collecting, how you set expectations at that point of sign up, and only talk to people who really want to talk to you. And if you are in Europe, we do have another regulation which is supposed to be coming, which is the e-privacy regulation. So in the UK, it will take over the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations, or PECA for short. Now, this is the marketing laws that sit alongside GDPR. And this was supposed alongside GDPR when it came into play. Then it was supposed to be this year. Now implementation is looking likely to be 2023. Maybe, possibly, it might come. We're not 100% sure yet what's going to happen with those e-privacy regulations, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on. And again, if you're around the world, it's about thinking about how are those legals going to change in your area? What's going to come into play? And how does GDPR sit alongside your local legislation? So as I mentioned, GDPR is a data protection law. It's about people's personal data, whereas PECA in the UK and the coming e-privacy law in Europe is about safeguarding any data that you actually use for electronic communications. So your email marketing, your SMS marketing, your fax marketing, if you still do fax marketing. So e-privacy is a very specialist regulation that sits alongside it. Okay, so for example, what we think might be included in e-privacy is an update to the current soft opt-in that is included in the Privacy and Electronic Communications regulations. So in the current PECA regulations, you can contact existing customers by email or SMS or fax without asking for specific consent to market similar products and services. But that's only when you have collected that person's information in the course of or negotiation of a sale. You gave them the opportunity to opt out at the time and in every subsequent message. Now, what we think e-privacy might do is to slightly update that it would most likely get rid of the negotiation of a sale and just be split down to collected in the course of a sale, and there may be a 12-month time limit on that as well. Now, this is all kind of conjecture taken from the communications that have been going around e-privacy, but something to look out for. And this is the key point of this first trend prediction, is that you need to be aware of the legals in your country. You need to be aware of the legals in the countries of the people who are receiving your emails and how they may be about to change. So you need to be thinking about what you can do to future-proof your business. But not only that, as we've seen with GDPR, how you can make sure that the data you are collecting, legals aside, is the most responsive that it can be. And that really links into our second point for today, which is all about continuing to build that data-driven approach. So the data that you are collecting, making sure that you're really meeting the user with that content that's relevant to them in the moment that is most relevant to them, across the channel that is most relevant to them. So we don't just think about our marketing as a siloed piece of information nowadays. Your customers aren't just your subscribers. They're on your email list. They're using your SMS channels. They're using your website. They're coming on to and seeing your Facebook ads. You know, we really need to think about that connected experience across all the channels. So quick quiz for you. Who knows the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel? I don't know if anybody here is kind of aware of what the difference is between the two. So multi-channel is where you're using individual channels in silo. They're not talking to each other. And that's okay. That's where a lot of us are. We're using SMS, we're using phone, we're using apps on our mobiles, we're using the in-store experience, email marketing, our websites to communicate with our audience, but they're all working individually. Omnichannel is where we need to be moving towards. So an omni-channel marketing approach is where all of those channels work together. They talk to each other. So if somebody takes an action on your social media or on your website or in your store, your email marketing is going to know about it, and vice versa. It means for a much more connected subscriber experience across the channels. It doesn't matter which they're interacting with, the messaging and the thought process behind it is going to connect together. So that's certainly where we need to be moving towards. But in order to get there, you have to really understand your data. You have to know your audience, and to know your audience, you have to know your data. So I like to break this down into your data pyramid. So let's start right at the bottom of the pyramid with your known data. So known data is information that you collect about people. And just before I go into each of these are all areas of your data that you need to make sure that you have covered to some extent, depending on your business to different levels, so that you can really understand who your audience are and what they need from you. So known data is data that you collect on your audience. It's your demographic data. So information about who that person is, where they live, how old they are, what their gender is. It's firmographic information about the company that they work for. So it's the size of the company, it's what industry the company is in, it's the revenue, the turnover of that company. So known data is data that people are going to give to you. It may be interest data. It may be data that you collect on your sign-up forms, through preference centers, through surveys, through in-email polls. It's information that people are giving to you and is so valuable in the moment. But now you have to be careful with this data, because although it's valuable right now, if somebody, let's say, gives you their address and then moves house, or tells you that they're about to renovate their kitchen, and then in 6 months' time, they've done that work on their kitchen, and that's no longer relevant. If you're using that known data and that interest data to continue the information, you're soon going to be out of date with what you're sending. So what we need to do is use that known data in the moment, but make sure that we keep it updated through preference centers, through surveys, through in email polls, as we go through the relationship with the subscriber. And then layer on the other elements of the data pyramid. So cultural data, it's the beliefs and values that people have. So between the different beliefs and values between different countries, between different areas in a country. Supermarkets use this a lot in the UK, for example. So a supermarket, a food shop that is advertising products to somebody in the north of England versus the south of England might advertise slightly different products, because the trends and the cultural impacts of those different areas will link into what people are buying. Contextual data. And as we go up the pyramid, this data gets stronger and stronger and more real life as we go. So the contextual data, it's bringing it into somebody's real life now. So it's the device that they're opening an email on. It's the time of day that it is. It's the country that they're in, or where they are in that country. So being able to track that data and then change your content in real time based on it. Your behavioral data is the next one up that pyramid. And behavioral data is what people are doing. It's how they are behaving with your brand. So what emails are they opening? What links are they clicking on? How often do they open and click on links? What are they interacting with on your website? What pages are they browsing? All of that behavioral data that you can collect across what they're doing with your brand. And then your purchase data right at the top of the pyramid. So what they've bought from you, how much they've spent with you, how often they buy from you, all of that purchase data that's going to tell you what they might like next. And then artificial intelligence helping to bring all of that together, helping us to ascertain what the trends are between that data and what the next best action might be for that subscriber. So it's really important that you have a firm understanding of each of those elements in the data pyramid and what data you have in your business that fits into each section. So what I'd like you to do in order to take full advantage of this trend is to conduct a data audit. I want you to think about what you've got now versus what you'd like to have in your database. And it's going to look a little bit like a rickety old bridge with elements kind of pasted onto each other and stuck on. And you're at one end of the bridge where you are now, and you want to get to the other side to ascertain what you might need for your strategy going forward. So if you want to better personalize your campaigns, if you want to increase the segmentation that you're using, what data are you going to need? Do you have it in your database now? So you can break it down into a chart effectively, and you can go as high level or as deep with this as you want when you conduct your data audit. But think about the data fields that you have in your business. Now, depending on the size of your business, this might be 10 fields of data, it might be 10,000 fields of data. But it's down to you as a marketer to truly understand your data and what you have in place. So list out all of those data fields that you have in your business. And the important thing here is to speak to different areas of your business and understand what data they hold. So whether it's your IT teams and looking at the data that you hold in your e-commerce software for your purchase data, because that type would be your purchase data. Whether it's bringing together your website browse behavior for your behavioral data, where is that sitting in your business? List it down. List down what type it is so you can see what spread you have across your data pyramid, and then list down how that data is collected. Is it collected through tracking on your website? Is it collected through your ESP and your the data that you're collecting on what people are opening or what they're clicking? Is it coming from known data that you're collecting at the point of sign up? Where's it coming from? And then how are you currently using it at the moment, if at all? So it might be that in the channels used and in the use description in your spreadsheet, when you're breaking this down, it may be that it's not being used at all. That's a point in itself, and that's something that you need to note down. Now, you can take this even further. You can start to note down of those pieces of data, how good is that data? What is the quality level of that data? So what percentage of your first name fields, let's say if we're talking about a data field that is your first name, your data type would be known data. It's collected at the point of sign up. It's used on your website to personalize the experience when they log in. It's used in your email marketing to personalize those emails. It's used in terms of a use description to bring in that person's name so you can talk directly to them. So think about how it's used, and then think about what percentage of that data is missing, whether it's accurate data. Okay, so really break it down and dig deep. Creating this data dictionary and learning to love your data is so important. It's going to allow you to identify what data you have, what's missing, and what's the quality of that data. And when you identify what's missing, you can start to think about how you would go about gathering that data, whether making changes to your sign-up form, additional tracking that's required, additional third-party platforms to plug in and connect with what you're already doing to bring more data into your strategy. Because when you have data, you can use it to segment, personalize, and trigger your campaigns. So have you thought about doing RFM analysis, for example? Using your purchase data, this is a more advanced form of segmentation, breaking down how recently someone has bought from you, how frequently they buy from you, and how much they spend with you, allowing you to identify your best customers, allowing you to think about the customers that are on the verge of churning, who has the potential to be converted into more profitable customers, who are the lost customers that you don't need to pay any attention to right now, who are the ones you need to retain? Who are the ones who are the most loyal? Now, if you can break all of these people down, you can decide different offers to send to them, different pieces of content that they need at different times to pull them through to the next stage. Your most loyal customers, your most valuable, your champions, you might decide that you don't want to feed in your omni-channel marketing strategy into paid Facebook ads because these people are already going to come back to you already. So there's no need to spend additional budget with them. So think about the data that you can use and how you can go deeper. Can you even take RFM analysis to the next level and go to RFM analysis? So link in the engagement that people have with your website, with your email marketing, and bring in an engagement layer on top of your purchase data layer. How deep can you go? How deep do you want to go with how you're segmenting your data and how you're talking to your customers? And artificial intelligence can help you to work this out and work out the next best action. So based on all that data that you have, what's the best product to be offering to somebody? So if you have a business objective to maximize the profit margins of the products that you're selling, and you obviously have a customer first objective to offer the most relevant products to them, artificial intelligence can help you link that together. So instead of just offering them a chair that they might like because they recently bought a table from you, you can offer them the chairs that are in the right color, that have the highest margin out of those products that you stock, so that you meet those two objectives. When's the best time of day to be sending out that messaging? What's the best messaging to be talking to them with? So the tone, the sentiment of what you're saying in your copy and your subject lines, the type of imagery that you're using, the type of design that you're using. So depending on the type of customer or prospect that you're talking to and how their brain works with design, you could be thinking about testing some emails to see whether or not they react better to image-based content or text-based content, and then automatically changing the design of your email based on how that individual person best reacts. Now, that's a really advanced strategy, and you probably aren't there yet, and that's okay. But think about your data audit and what might you need to take you to the next step in your segmentation strategy and your personalization strategy. What's the next step for you? Because the third trend that links into all of this is really putting the customer at the heart of everything that you do and truly understanding what they need and when they need it. Because if you can do that, you can bring together not just the trifecta of email marketing, but the 4 elements of a successful omni-channel campaign, sending the right message to the right person at the right time through the right channel. And this all starts with understanding your data, and through your data, understanding which timings are best for people. This is the customer journey, your life cycle of a customer moving around and engaging with your brand, and in this case, specifically with your email marketing. But again, if you don't understand your data, you're going to struggle to identify people at each of these stages. So let's just talk through these one by one very quickly. So acquisition is when people first find out about you. They first find your brand, start to think about interacting with you, and sign up to your email marketing. So a key piece of data in the acquisition stage for your email marketing is when somebody signs up to your email list. Then we move through to the consideration stage. So consideration is about people starting to think about using your products or services, starting to think about buying from you, and what do they need to know at that stage to push them through to the next stage, which is the purchase and experience level. So within consideration, the data that you might be looking at is how long since they signed up have they been on your email list? Have they purchased from you before? And if they haven't, they're still in consideration. If they have purchased from you before, then they've gone through to the purchase and experience stage and then on to engagement and loyalty. Consideration might also be if somebody abandons their basket or abandons a form on your website as they're going through to complete it. They're not quite at that point of going through to purchase, but they're almost there. Okay, so consideration is when they haven't bought from you before. And you're going to have very similar campaigns in your engagement and loyalty section, your abandoned basket, your abandoned form, your newsletters, your sales emails. The difference between these two elements is that one, consideration have not bought from you, engagement and loyalty have bought from you. So the offers and the information that you present to them is going to be slightly different, but the campaigns will be very, very similar. Your purchase and experience stage, though, just going back one step, is the point at which I see a lot of people falling down. So they'll often send out their confirmation of coming on board as a client, perhaps if you're a service provider. If you are a product-based business, you'll send your order confirmation, you'll send your shipping confirmation. But no one really, thinks about how they can go further. Some brands absolutely do. And the brands that do are the ones that really solidify that experience and make bringing your customers back and retaining them and building that engagement and loyalty so much easier. So think about how you can make that experience with your brand amazing. So let's say if you were a makeup brand, for example, you sold makeup and you knew that customers struggled with how to apply their foundation or their mascara. Why not send them a video showing them tips on how to put their foundation on properly and get, a really smooth appearance? Or if you sold sheds, for example, and you knew that as part of your business and your customer service, you have questions all the time about how to fit the roof properly. So why not solve two birds with one stone and make sure that you're giving a fantastic experience to your audience by sending them a video and tips on how to fit the roof properly so that it doesn't leak on their new shed, but also you'll be minimizing the number of questions that come through to your customer services team. So not only will you be increasing the customer satisfaction, increasing the engagement and loyalty of them coming back, you may also be decreasing the returns rate on your products and decreasing the number of calls that you get through to customer services. So think about those questions that people ask and how you can answer them in your post-purchase phase in your email marketing. So through to engagement and loyalty that we've talked about, and there will be obviously some differences in the campaigns between that and consideration. And this really is identified by people who've made a purchase, people who've made a purchase multiple times, and are still then interacting with your websites, with your emails, thinking about perhaps coming back and buying from you again. So understanding your purchase cycle is really important there. And then reactivation. So inevitably there will be customers or prospects who become inactive with your brand, inactive with your email marketing, and need re-engaging. So re-engagement campaigns for those who aren't opening or clicking on your email marketing anymore. Re-engagement campaigns for those who are still interacting with your email marketing, but aren't actually buying from your brand anymore and have got to a point where they're inactive. So identifying your data at each of these stages through the customer lifecycle and what you can do to talk to your customers at each of those stages to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time through the right channel. Now, email will be your base for that, but it might be that you have that omni-channel approach and back it up with an SMS, a piece of direct mail, a retargeting campaign on Facebook or on Google. So think about your channel as well. But it comes down to knowing your customers. Who are they? Where are they interacting right now? And how are they interacting? And what do they need from you? So understand your data, understand your customers. And then when you understand all of that and you've got the data in place, our fourth trend is really about making that process easier, more accessible, more enjoyable for people. So a trend that I've seen over the last year and will continue to rise in 2020 is interactive email. Interactive email is here and comes in lots of different forms. So it might be that you're using basic interactivity already. Maybe you've got a hamburger menu in your emails that allows people to drop down that menu when they're looking at your content on a mobile device. Maybe you're using a countdown timer in your emails. Or maybe you want to take it a little bit further. Maybe you want to show people how they can move through content right there in your email. And just one more. Lovely. So it's about using interactive email to enhance your customer experience and make it really easy for someone to complete your desired action. So you need to understand what you want to achieve with your email marketing before you go about implementing interactive email. So you can see on your screen here a few examples. So we've got a hover over button on the top right there saying awesome email blogs. So what that's doing is really highlighting your call to action. So as you hover over it, it changes color. B&Q do quite a lot with interactive email and kinetic email design. So what this is doing is as you select a different tab on the right hand side of the email, it's changing the content on your screen. So instead of scrolling down and having these as each individual sections, you're giving people the opportunity to control what they see and when they see it. The example on the bottom right of your screen is from a company called The White Company. And what they did was as you moused over the individual products and the flashing plus signs, you could see the product name and an individual call to action link to go through and buy that product. So we're making things a lot more interactive when we're looking at them. But don't forget that not all receiving email clients will be able to support all of these things. So Outlook Desktop, for example, won't support this type of interactive email in a lot of cases. So don't forget to create a backup for those email clients that don't support interactivity. So a static version for them as well. So what we're seeing now is not only building this interactivity through your CSS and through your HTML coding, but also through AMP. So AMP is really about creating mini website experiences in your emails, and it's available in Gmail at the moment and is still in beta in Microsoft. So it is coming, but what all of this interactivity does is allow you to allow people to interact right there in your email. So buy a product, submit a review of your product, take a quiz, have a look at an online poll and see what those interactive results right there and then are after they've submitted their result in the email. So it's making email a lot more fun. It's making actions quicker to take right there in the email. So think about how you can incorporate this into your strategy if it makes sense, to help people to get to your end goal. Now, talking about getting people to your end goal, one of the other things that I really want you to be aware of is making your emails accessible. So designing your emails for people with a permanent disability or a situational disability. So let's say, for example, using an example of hearing, someone may be permanently deaf. Someone may have an ear infection and just be kind of situationally have lost that hearing temporarily, or they may be just in a loud place and they can't hear anything right now. So if you're using video in your emails, making sure that you've got subtitles helps to increase the accessibility of your content. So there are 4 key areas that you need to consider when it comes to accessibility of your emails. And there are some brilliant tools out there that can help you to break this down. So Email on Acid, for example, have an accessibility checker built into their platform that allows you to see how accessible your emails are. And it will go through some of these areas. So as we've mentioned, from a hearing point of view, if you're using video, provide subtitles and captions so that even when that video can't be listened to, people can still read the main message. You've got the visual side, so designing your emails for visual impairments, coding for screen readers, for example. Now, it's not just screen readers anymore for when someone's blind and their computer is reading out to them, but it's also for people who, let's say, have a situational blindness in the sense that, let's say, if they are driving and they can't pick up their phone and read their emails. So we now have lots of devices, Alexa, Siri, that are actually going to read your emails out to you. So designing for screen readers is really important for accessibility of your email campaigns across the board. Dexterity, so making your emails easy to interact with. Think about how people might tab through your emails. Think about this example on the left that's got the cross on it is all image based. We want to be breaking that down so that the buttons are individual elements in your email, preferably bulletproof buttons, so that if images are disabled, people can still interact with your call to action and go through and take that action for you. Color contrast, so making sure that you have a good contrast between your colors so that people can actually read your text when it's on a background color or on a call to action button color. Think about the cognitive side of your emails. Think about how you can make your emails easy to read and understand. Think about the fonts that you choose, making sure they're really easy to read, making sure that your font sizes are big enough, making sure that your content is spaced out enough in your emails. So there's lots of things that you can do with your coding, with how you design your emails to make them accessible. So I highly recommend that you look into that and start to think about what you can do to make your emails easier to interact with. Because it doesn't just work for permanent and situational disabilities, it works for mobile design as well, and for making sure that whatever device your customers are interacting on, they can actually engage with your emails to the best of their ability and take the action that you want them to take. So we're getting towards the end of our trends now, and the last one that I want to leave you with today is that we're going to continue to make email great. You guys are already doing that. You wouldn't be on this webinar and you wouldn't have hung on with our technical difficulties if you weren't committed to making your email marketing great for both your customer experience and for the results that your business is seeing. So I want you to think about the 4 key attributes of a great email marketing strategy. The first is relevance. So making sure that you've got information and offers that are relevant to your customers and prospects, because that's what's going to influence the to buy. Second only to price, relevancy is what they want. Now that comes from your data. It comes from how you're segmenting your data and how you're personalizing it. So go back to your data audit. It's so valuable to do it, and something we do with our clients all the time. And what it will do is really give you campaign ideas, segmentation ideas, personalization ideas. It's going to allow you to stand out and go above and beyond. The second attribute of a great strategy is usefulness. So 90% of consumers say that usefulness is the most important factor when deciding whether to redeem an offer or a promotion. So really think about, what would your customers and prospects consider useful? Who are they? And when you can identify them through your data, you can better communicate with them through your content, through your messaging, through your tone of voice. What are they going to find most useful? And how can you deliver that to them? How can you deliver it at a time that is most convenient? So the third point is convenience. Giving them the messaging that's right for them when they need it through the right channel. So automating your campaigns, thinking about that customer life cycle, thinking about an omni-channel approach. And that links into the 4th attribute, timeliness. So considering, again, that customer life cycle and channel, how you are targeting your customers and prospects with those messages to get it to them at the right time. So let's do a quick recap on what we've been through today. So the post-GDPR landscape is better. So whether you're in Europe or not, think about how you're collecting that data, how you're making sure that you've got people on your email list that truly want to be there, and how you're setting expectations on sign up. How you use that data that you collect to have a data-driven approach so that you can put the customer at the heart of everything that you do in all ways, always, to understand what they need, when they need it, and why they need it. Then make the process easier, more accessible, and more enjoyable for people. Think about interactivity in email if it supports your strategy and your goals and makes email better for people to interact with. Think about how you make it more accessible across devices for permanent and situational disabilities, more enjoyable for everybody. And how you're going to continue to make email great by segmenting, personalizing, and triggering emails based on who those subscribers are. So there we have it. Those are my predictions or trends for today. And thank you so much for sticking with us.
Thank you so much, Kate. And the listeners today, they've been a very great audience. So it was a wonderful session that highlighted on the different dimensions of email marketing evolution, covering the tips and predictions that marketers can benefit from. Thank you once again, Kate, for sharing your knowledge and meaningful experiences for our listeners to take lessons from.
Fabulous.